Minister, first of all, can I say that all steps need to be taken in reopening the economy, need to be conscious of the need to minimise the spread of COVID-19. And we all have to accept now that we're going to have to live with COVID-19 for the foreseeable future. Now, Minister, can I ask you, first of all, in terms of this guidance that has been worked on for the last 7 weeks by the Health and Safety Authority, the HSE, businesses need to know now. They need to know this weekend what they need to do to prepare to open up. Minister, the Health and Safety Authority, as you have rightly said, is advising and inspecting businesses on physical distancing. Can I ask you specifically, Minister, what advice was given to companies such as meat processing facilities? Because I'm told, and this Dáil has been told, that there is now a significant problem in a number of these meat plants across the country. And the third point that I have for you, Minister, is in terms of the measures that need to be taken regarding sterilisation and physical distancing within the workforce, staff training, health and safety and PPE. Companies cannot and don't have the resources to fund that. They need financial assistance, and that has to come in the form of grant aid and not loans. And can you give a commitment in relation to that?
Minister.
Thank you, Deputy. Just to say that there are the NSAI have guidelines on how companies should operate. And they're there and they're available, and companies should be adhering to them. There's no doubt about that. So, as I said there previously, if there's issues and concerns, contact the HSA. We are developing a much more detailed set of guidelines to cover a lot more issues that are going to arise, and we will publish them as soon as we can. But the guidelines are there currently for the manufacturing process and processing plants that you're referring to. So the NSAI guidelines are there, and I would urge companies to get a copy of those and make sure that they're complying with them, because none of us want to see people going into plants where they're not protected and they're not safe, because that's only adding to the spread of this virus. So we don't want to see that happening. So they are there, and if the worries, go to the HSA and they'll go down and visit any of those. And the employees can call the HSA and explain to them they're not happy, and they can come down and see exactly what's happening. And as I said to you, it's in everybody's benefit that they work together and put the right protections in place.
Minister, as you know, we've had a problem with nursing homes. We don't want to see a problem in processing facilities across the country. You might come back to me on the issue of grant aid for getting businesses up and running in terms of the cost of training staff, the cost of equipping premises. Minister, can I turn to the wage subsidy scheme? I think the wage subsidy scheme must be prioritised as the primary support for workers and provide for a continuity between workers and their employees. Minister, I believe that the wage subsidy scheme, and you might clarify, will be continued beyond June and will be tapered off in line with a recovery in the economy to maintain that linkage where at all possible. And I'd ask you, Minister, to comment on actions by some companies, such as Bord na Móna, that are being allowed to avail of the wage subsidy scheme and also then lay off staff and put them on welfare payments through the pandemic unemployment payment. Should it not be the case, Minister, that employers that are availing of the wage subsidy scheme should keep all of their staff on the books rather than lay off the majority of staff and keep a smaller proportion on the books? Can I ask you, Minister, will there be provision made for forgiveness in terms of debt during the lockdown for businesses? And will government increase the funding to local authorities in order for rates bill during the lockdown to be actually written off?
Okay, thank you, Can Corla. Just in relation to the wage subsidy scheme, as the Deputy will be aware, it's a very successful scheme with a lot more companies taking it up. and just to be clear, that companies who didn't take it up, it's still available for them to come and take it up now. You know, there's no barriers to the entry into it. You can have a mix, because some companies found themselves in the position where they could hold on to some staff and maybe lay others off. So it is permitted within the scheme that you can have a mix of the wage subsidy scheme, and for some, unfortunately, staff, they have to let them go on to the unemployment benefit. So that mix is available. In terms of rates, currently we have the rates have been deferred, as you know, and that is welcome. And can I just say that I am working very closely with Minister Donoghue in preparing a suite of supports to reboot and assist companies get back to work. Because at the end of the day, what we all want is, we want to see as many companies getting back fully operational, and as many as possible people returning back to work. So we are working on a suite of supports, and all of the suggestions that I have heard here today, we'll certainly take those on board as we are designing that package.
Minister, I believe that we need to continue a tapered wage subsidy scheme beyond June of this year, and deferring rates will not be sufficient. Rates need to be written off. Minister, a lot of work will need to be done in the provision of liquidity, particularly working capital for businesses. To deal with risk, there will need to be a state-backed bond scheme. Banks should also be instructed to apply forbearance and reset the covenant criteria to take into account the extraordinary circumstances that businesses are currently facing. And this covenant issue will become a far bigger issue during the year unless it's addressed now. Minister, Government also needs to bring in direct reliefs in particular sectors. For instance, the restoration of the lower VAT rate scheme for the hospitality and tourism sector. And there needs to be continued forbearance, Minister, by revenue in terms of allowing businesses sufficient time to repay parked VAT and parked PRSI and PAYE bills from earlier this year. And can you give an assurance that that will be provided?
Thank you. Just to say, in terms of liquidity, we have the €450 million working capital facility, and that allows loans from 25,000 up to 3 million. It's at the reduced rate of 4%. I know some deputies think it should be even lower, but it's the normal price for overdraft facilities in the market is 8%, so it's a considerably reduced price. As part of that, also, you can avail of loans up to €500,000 that are unsecured, and I think that's important as well, where businesses don't have the security that they can go and apply for the COVID-19 working capital facility. The loans are for up to 3 years, and in terms of the banks, I spoke with the head of the 3 main banks yesterday and the day before, and they have assured me that they have given forbearance. Two-thirds of the requests that are coming in are actually for payment breaks, and the other one-third is for an increase in overdraft facilities. They tell me that they're working with their customers, and they have also extended this forbearance now from 3 months to 6 months, and I know that will be of comfort to some people. They also tell me that that people are adverse to borrowing, and I understand that. I absolutely understand that, because people got scalded and they lost their shirt and everything else with huge debts before. And every lender has a duty of care to their customers as well. So I understand. Now, you've mentioned a number of different issues there, Deputy, and we're working on a suite of supports. We're working very hard. I've consulted with all of the different representative groups. I've had conference calls with them all. I have spoken to all of the LEO representatives. I've spoken to 22 representatives from Chambers of Commerce right across the country. I've spoken to the Board of ISME. I've spoken to many, many different stakeholders. And the issues that you are raising are coming through. And as part of the suite of supports, we will examine all of those suggestions. And you can appreciate what we're trying to do is to get the best supports target at the right place at the right time, because we all want the same thing at the end of the day, is get these businesses back up and running.
Thank you, Minister.